I like that picture because it's so represented how the kind of place I find myself in. You could almost hear me saying, run that by me again. I'm not sure I get it when I was looking at that. It's not just a privilege to be here. It's an obligation, not just as a journalist with some profile, and to be here with my friend Tom Hanks and with the Dole family. It is an obligation of citizenship, in my judgment. We are living, as I need not tell this audience, in a deeply divided time in America. It seems to me it is the single overriding most important issue of this presidential campaign. And there are a lot of issues, but overarching all of them is how do we get back together again and find common cause to move this country forward without giving up our individual interests, without giving up the hopes that we may have for our children and our grandchildren. That's entirely possible if we find in causes like this a way to come together for the greater good. We are at war, and we have been for some time. That war is being fought by less than 1% of our population. I find that not just unacceptable, but in a democratic society, I find it immoral as well, that we ask a very Now, there's a reason for that. The military wants highly motivated people who want to join the armed forces, and I understand that. But that doesn't relieve the obligation that the rest of us have to, in a way, go to war as well, even here at home. When a member of a family decides to raise his or her hand and join one of the branches of the American military service, and then goes to basic training and goes to the war zone, the whole family goes with that young man or that young woman because they lead a life that every day is fraught with the dangers that something will happen to them. And they feel disconnected from the rest of society because less than 1% is doing all the fighting for us. Well, nothing is asked of the rest of us. We can go about our business. We can send our children to college or help them find a job. We can go shopping and have leisurely weekends. Well, these families live in a state of emotional near paralysis, wondering what is happening to my daughter or my son, my husband, or my wife. I'll tell you a small story about being in the war zone, and I've been there a lot. In Iraq and Afghanistan, coast with the 10th Mountain Division and the Dev Valley of Afghanistan with the Special Forces, all over Iraq as well. And I never failed to come out there without an enormous emotional lift from the people I've been associating with. But one of the most memorable stories for me had not to do with anybody on the front lines. I was catching a hop on a medevac plane back to Germany, and the hold was filled with wounded young men who had been in battle. And there was a very efficient nurse there with them, going from gurney to gurney, making sure that the IVs were working, comforting them. And then came to me and said, would you mind having your picture taken with some of them? And I said, of course not. And so I went from gurney to gurney. And then at the end of that tour, I said, tell me about your family. She said, well, my children are back home. I said, with her father? She said, no, he's in the cockpit. He's flying this plane. They're with their grandparents. I said, my God, that must be a terrible strain on your family. She said, you know, in a way, it has brought us together. We knew what we were doing when we signed up for duty in a National Guard outfit in North Carolina. We knew that this day may come. We have no complaints. And when you look around this hold, you know that these young men need my skills and my attention. So we're proud to serve. I wanted to take that woman and put her on screen and take her back to America and ship her to every citizen in this country and say that's what being a citizen is all about. It's about sharing not just the duty, but the responsibility and also the terrible pain and penalty that comes with it. In my long time ago hometown of Yankton, South Dakota, a National Guard unit went to Iraq and got badly beaten up. 2 Guard members were killed, 1 survived, but just barely. In fact, the prognosis was that he was not going to make it even to Germany, but he got to Germany. Then he got here, and because of his tenacious wife, he was put back together to a degree. He was still immobilized physically, he couldn't see, and he couldn't form speech. But we got him back to the hometown in South Dakota, and the mayor called me and said, "We don't know what to do." And I asked whether they had a foundation in the community that could help them with new housing. And he said, "No." I said, "Well, start with that. And then our family will pitch in and do whatever is required." And he called me the next day and he said, "We've got the foundation, but we don't think that you should bear the burden of this. You've been gone from here a long time and you've done other things for the community." I said, "We'll figure it out and we'll be there to help." So they built the house, and we got him a handicapped equipped car, and we got a home and a kitchen. I can only repeat this story now because the time limit has run out. And I called the head of kitchens at GE and I said, "I need a kitchen, darn it," and sent it to Yankton, South Dakota. And he said, "I will if you never mention this again." And we got the kitchen. And it worked beautifully for a while. And then his friends stopped coming around. And their social environment closed in around them. And the only friends that they had were on those programs where wounded warriors get taken to Aspen to go fishing or to meet with other people. And when I asked Corey's wife why that was happening, she looked at me and said, "His friends all say it's too difficult for them to come over and see him in this condition." Frankly, I was outraged. And I called old friends of mine. And I said, "You cannot have that happen in that town, which is always taking care of everyone else." In effect, I shamed him into doing something more. We ought not to be shamed into doing something more. And this program, Hidden Heroes, is a perfect example of how we can do something positive. We can do something that links us all together, whether we're a military family or just someone who's interested in it, Democrat or Republican, from the Southeast or the Northwest. When we go to war, we should all go to war. And that's the enduring lesson of what we're going through right now. And the place to put this country back together again is to rally around not just the veterans with a welcome home at an airport sign, but when they come back, to let them know in real terms that we're proud of them and we're here to help them get through every day of the rest of their lives. So I thank all of you for your commitment to this. Go forth and spread the word. And I am grateful to the Doles to be a part, not just of this, but what the Senator is doing with the Eisenhower Memorial as well. It's truly, I think I can speak for my friend Tom Hanks as well, it's been a privilege for the two of us since Saving Private Ryan and the writing of The Greatest Generation to be welcomed into the families of those who make the greatest sacrifices on behalf of all of us. Thank you all very much.